Hey guys, Evie here, and I'm extremely sick. But I realized I needed to get a video out. So I thought, what would be the easiest type of video to get out? And obviously, it's a gaming video. Now, for those of you that are unaware, I am a major fan of Supercell, especially their game Brawl Stars. I have quite the hours in Brawl Stars. And they have recently come out with a new game called Squad Busters, which is basically like their Marvel end game of like Supercell games. Because it basically takes characters from like Clash of Clans and Brawl Stars and kind of just slaps them all together into one game, which I think is pretty cool, honestly. So, obviously, a lot of you have probably already pre-registered for this game. For the pre-register rewards you would get, especially that Shelly skin, that Squad Buster Shelly. I went into this with the goal of getting to level 15 in this game, which is when you get to the desert where you can start preparing to unlock Shelly. Because my ultimate goal here was to get Shelly as well as to test out the game that we had pre-registered for. Going in, I wasn't sure what to expect, and this definitely was not it at all. This game is so weird. I don't have anything I can really compare it to. The base premise of the game is you start out with a certain character. Typically, I would prefer to start out with the Goblin or Colt, because starting with the Goblin at the baby stage will allow you to have a bonus 5 gems, which gives you basically a free chest at the very start. And Colt just has a really high damage, one of the highest early game off of just spawning. So that's someone you want to get. My overall strategy to begin with was always to start with high damage so I can kill as many of the smaller minions as possible, get as many coins as possible, build up my army, and before I start engaging. I especially wanted an evolved medic before I truly got into any battles, but that was always hard to do. Most of the time I'd end up going in with a fucking hodgepodge of randomness, which is one critique I'd like to have about the game. When you collect characters, you basically have all of them in your inventory all at once, and I think that's kind of ridiculous. I think you should be able to limit yourself to a certain amount of characters. That way it's kind of not creating this hodgepodge that makes the game a lot harder than it really needs to be. I feel like that's an issue that needs to be addressed, and soon. Otherwise, the game is just going to suffer for it. It kind of makes it annoying when, obviously you're going to want to build up like your Goblin, get them evolved, or your Barbarian, but instead your choices are nothing but everything else. You have one Barbarian and suddenly not a single chest will have a Barbarian in it. It's giving you like a character you haven't unlocked yet, or El Primo. One, it should only have the characters you unlocked. I don't know why it would have like a locked character as an option. That greatly limits what the player can do and kind of just ruins the gaming experience. But I feel like that's something that can be addressed pretty early on and get patched, or get quick fixed. This is just like the initial release of the game, so obviously there's going to be some balance changes that are going to happen without a doubt, and when those come in, we'll see. I have a lot of faith in Supercell balancing. It may not be the same for like other games like Clash Royale, I think, is Supercell, but it's Brawl Stars has been doing a lot better on its balancing. A character will be released and then they'll be patched later on. Although sometimes the patches go a little too far, but overall I'd say I have faith in the Supercell patching. But yeah, so you basically just have to kill these little enemies, collect coins, and you'll go around and get chests that will allow you to add more brawlers. Once you have 3 of the same brawler on your team, or buster, sorry, you're going to be able to evolve that character, which basically is just like, hey, guess what? Now I'm bigger and have a stat increase. And you really want to seek out those evolutions because they are so helpful once you get into fights with other players. Overall, one of the biggest issues you're going to face in this game is the aggression of other players, which is one thing that I think also needs to be tweaked. Like, once a player has you, they have you. There's almost like no escape. They're just going to hunt your ass down, which obviously is the strategic play, but I feel like there should be more in there to escape. Every match also has a modifier, which I am not a huge fan of. I feel like there should be like a normal mode and then like the modifiers one. But again, it's still early stages. We'll see where they go from here. I'd say there are some good and some bad, obviously. I think a good one is Turbo Overdrive, which is a really fucking fun one where you basically have this turbo. Turbo's always a thing in the game. I'm not sure of its exact function, but from what I've seen, it's able to give you a speed boost, which can help you get away from enemies, though it drains really quickly. But in Turbo Overdrive, you can basically get like 10 at once, and you're just sprinting across the entire goddamn map, and it's hilarious to see. Occasionally, you'll see these bridges that are breakable once you walk over them. It's another thing you can kind of use to try and escape, but if they're close by you, which they most likely are going to be, then you're not going to be able to escape. They'll get over the bridge before it collapses, and then you're basically done for. You can't really fight past that point. Another critique I would give to the game is kind of just how it plays. So when you're going into a fight, basically you move around, but you don't attack unless you stop moving, which basically it's auto fighting for you, which I can understand something like that. There's like a lot of their games kind of do that for you, like Clash Royale. You just kind of send out your units and you got to strategize. However, I don't think it really works too well for this game, because this game is pretty much almost entirely RNG. With Clash Royale, you kind of have to like strategize, but for this, there's not much strategy. With the amount of like busters you get so early on and how frequently they can appear in chests, it kind of makes the RNG like actually ridiculous. You don't have an inventory you can set. It's just kind of like every single brawler you have unlocked and you gotta hope you get them. Otherwise, you'll just end up with one of every single brawler in your inventory eventually, I imagine, which would not be exactly what you want in a battle. You don't need like these tiny guys. You don't need a bunch of the babies. You really want the evolutions, and I feel like it greatly limits its potential and your actual chances if your opponents are just luckier than you, or RNG favors them more than you, which is a really unfavorable thing to have happen. You really do not want them to have a better RNG, or you're just automatically going to lose. You're not going to win a fight if you have like 2 El Primos, 2 Colts, 2 like Archer Queens, 1 Barbarian Queen, like 1 El Primo, and just like 2 Barbarians, and 1 Barbarian King for some reason, and a Witch, and like expect to win against like an evolved El Primo, an evolved Barbarian, an evolved like Archer Queen. It's honestly ridiculous to expect that of your players. So I think like the RNG element definitely needs to be fixed. Maybe implement a Clash Royale style inventory where you can like pick the characters you want to bring, and I feel like that would definitely help a lot. Maybe like obviously there'd be some issues like, they would only bring like their epic brawlers. Maybe limit how many of each they could bring, like have a 10 space inventory. They can bring 5 commons, 3 rares, and 2 epics, or you could decrease it further where it's like, you have 5 slots. You get 2 commons, 2 rares, and an epic, or whatever, as long as like limiting it to kind of help balance that. It's definitely what it needs, and that's obviously the biggest issue going into this game. At the end goal is kind of to have the most gems. You can do this by waiting at the gem mine as it breaks open and drops the gems, but you get a lot more from just going around the map, killing enemies, such as other players, busting them. If you get busted, you're basically out of the match, and that's really just the opposite of what you want. Even if you don't get first place, you don't want to get busted. That will ruin it. It really sucks to lose that win streak. I at one point had an 11 straight top 5 win streak, but it got killed, which was one of the most unfortunate things that could have happened, and it was simply because the luck of everything was just way too poor. I couldn't. One of the best that I saw was actually Greg. There are going to be these trees that are going to be around the map that only Greg can chop. which also I feel like that's something that needs to be changed. Needing like one specific type of character and you automatically get this major advantage. Again, it's just this major RNG thing where if someone gets Greg and you don't, they're able to chop trees and get this extra advantage to where they get more coins than you do just off the fact that they can mine the trees, which you can't. And you need as many coins as you can get because that's how you get more of your busters, as I call them, or more of your squad or whatever they're called in this game. I really don't know. So there's just all these like glaring issues, but overall I guess the question to ask is it fun? And I'd say kind of. It's really addicting. It is fun at times. But overall, you know, it's easy to get frustrated when you have all these issues with it. There's going to be these boss enemies like dragons or the big rocks, and there's a game mode like gym trees, where there's these giant fucking gym tree bosses, and they hurt like hell. They can squad wipe you, which absolutely abominable. You do not want that under any circumstances. But yeah, then some guy will just run here and steal all of your goddamn gems after you defeated that guy single-handedly. So that's also an issue. Overall, I've said a lot of negatives, but the game overall is a really fun experience for the most part. It is very addicting, and when it's fun, it is really fun, but when it's not, you really notice. It's unlike Brawl Stars, where like even when you're losing, you can be frustrated, but you still want to keep going and having fun. Whereas this one, it's kind of like you're just playing out of frustration now, rather than the fun, because you have a goal that you set for yourself in mind, and suddenly you're not reaching it, and it's just super disappointing. But obviously this kid has everything it needs to make a absolutely wonderful game. It just needs some fine tuning, and it could definitely be up there with the greats. I don't think it'll ever be better than Brawl Stars, and after this I'm immediately going to go play Brawl Stars, or maybe go to bed, as it's 5 a.m. I'm sick and I have not slept yet for some reason because I'm clinically insane. But yeah, I had fun overall, and I would recommend you play it. I mean, you probably pre-registered for it, as I said. Fucking 40 million pre-registers for that Shelly skin, which we got. I love that Shelly skin. What was it, 30 million? Honestly, I can't remember. Point is, I'd recommend giving it a chance. It's not for me. I can't see myself playing it again. I'm just, like, not that into it. But I can see it being for some other people. Like, I'm not into Clash Royale, and I don't think I ever will. But I don't blame someone for liking it, because I can see why someone would. Overall, I'd say it's like maybe a 5 out of 10. Honestly, these RNG type games really bug me. Especially when the main focus is the RNG. It's just abominable and ruins the experience for me. But there are a lot of fun elements, and I can see if they ever patch this or fix this or rework it, how the system is, I can see myself playing it again. But until then, I just can't. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say. Get out there and play, and have a great day. Peace out.